Yes.
What's the story over there? Oh. Hey everybody, welcome to our January boat shop update, January 2024. Yikes. So a lot happened here. So generally speaking, December for us is a very kinetic month. We have our holiday open house at the beginning of the month where we sort of put everything away. And then after that, there's a big shift. So just prior to that open house, we sent away the Irish seine boat, packed it into a container, and off it went over to, well, it's probably in transit now, which is terrifying considering all the storms we've just had that are going to cross the North Atlantic. And strapping that 20-foot boat into a 40-foot container on a trailer, all I could think of was the trailer going back and forth all the way across the ocean. So we strapped it down pretty well, but there's always that fear that it's going to show up all matchsticks. So we'll do a little walk around, show you what's going on. Might as well start here and do a little bit of a loop. So our Haven 12.5 had been here. We moved it just before Christmas, actually the last day where the kids were here before Christmas, and we moved in this Beetle cat. How we got the 12.5 through is we took down that wall, those windows there. So when Ralph Lowell built that shop just after World War II, he built that as a showroom, and so these doors were like glass doors that you'd visit the shop, you'd walk through into the showroom and purchase your boat or order your boat or what have you. So those are recycled from some other building somewhere and were put in there so you can unscrew them, and it's actually a nice easy wheel through. So we wheeled the 12.5 in there because it's pretty darn heavy, and brought this in. So the Haven for the apprentices who've been working on it, it's getting to the point where it's the last bits of work, it's the real fussy stuff, and so we didn't have enough meaty projects, I guess, for those kids to work on. So we moved in this Beetle cat here, which had the typical Beetle cat problems when they live on a trailer. The bunks of the trailer had pushed the bottom up, pushed the floors up off the keel and things like that. So you can see we've got it braced down, pushing the floors back down onto the keel. We'll get it all back into shape and then refasten that. And the kids are working on that right now. And this will just get a pretty general overhaul thereafter. And then it will be for sale, just like the 12.5, also for sale. We can get back to this at the end, but this is Locust for the shallop in the other room. And this is stuff that I had cut more than 10 years ago, and it's been sitting up at a piece of land that I have. For a while it was stickered and covered, and then over time it just became unstickered and uncovered. And on a whim, needing wood for floor timbers for that boat, went up there and sort of dragged some of this back. Actually, I took a chainsaw up there to see if it was any good still. And it's a testament to black locust in that I cut the end off, and you can see that wood looks good as new after sitting on the ground for 10 years. So pretty amazing stuff. It looks like garbage on the outside, but you trim a 1/4 inch off all around, and it's perfect still. So that will go into the shallop in the other room. So this is one of 3 sisters here, two new boats and 1 rebuild going to Mohonk Mountain House. These, we just took advantage of a 55-degree day in January and fiberglassed the bottoms, so epoxy and glass here. We did them all in the same day, and you have to start, it's a full day process, especially when you're doing this many, but you start by putting the glass down and soaking it through with epoxy, and then you have to wait for that to pretty much kick or mostly kick, and then go over it again with another layer of epoxy to fill the weave. And by that, if you kind of look, you can see the texture here of the weave. Had the second coat not gone on, you would see a very textured surface here, in that when you go to sand that, you actually start sanding through the fiberglass and it loses all of its utility. So 1, 2, 3, you can see this is clearly the rebuild because it's painted up like a boat. And this was actually is an insurance job. So the sprinkler system where these are stored went off last year and filled this boat to the brim with water, and then it froze solid, a big ice cube. And the planks right around here, this whole thing separated the whole bottom and the top because there was a seat there. It just pulled apart and cracked it up. So we fixed that while it was here. We put a new bottom on it. Here we've got a customer, wanted a Lunenberg Dory, so I found a Lunenberg Dory, but without saying too much about Lunenberg Dories, the whole side was rotten, and that's come off, and we're going to just put a new side on. It's kind of weird that this side's perfectly fine, and that side was almost completely gone, but a pretty cool thing to look at. So that'll get 3 new planks to match this side, new caps, the whole thing. Right now, we're just kind of letting it dry out a little bit before we'll put new in whales in here too. But letting it dry out a little bit before going too nuts on planks. And then coming in the other room. So this is one of this room and below are the only real heated rooms in the shop. And so we moved the Haven in here to do some final painting and finish work on it. And then here we've got the ship's boat from Plymouth Patuxent Museums. So this is the smaller sister to the shallop that we rebuilt a few years ago. And this is here for some floor timbers and some garbards. And while we're at it, we're sort of trying to put her back into shape here. If we go around the other side, you can look in and see where we've made a few new floor timbers. And we're fixing to trunnel those in. And then we will also trunnel there'll be a keelson that goes on top of these floors, and we'll trunnel that down through the keel. So rather than do bronze keel bolts like what's here, we don't really need those in this boat because we're not holding a ballast keel on. We're really just holding the keelson to the frame, to the keel, and trunnel is going to do just as good a job of doing that as a bronze bolt, and it's not going to degrade over time. It'll, especially if it's made of that Locust out there. So that's what's going on here. I don't know what Jeff's working on back there. Let's go ask him. Diligent Jeff here on a Sunday morning.
Company name.
Something like that. What are you doing?
Just getting ready to pull some of these fastenings. Pulling fastenings in floor timbers that are coming out, and also pulling fastenings in frames even that are going to remain. And we're just going to replace those fastenings. They have a lot of age on them, and not a great grip in the frame. So going through it little by little, replacing all of those.
Yeah, so we're pulling 12s out and putting 14s in. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
Or we do 14s to 16s. Anyway, went up a size just because the holes, you bore the hole out a little bit bigger and then go back in with a bigger screw. And I don't think in 25 years from now they're going to be able to pull these 14s out and put 16s in.
No, there won't be any frames left.
That's a good point, yeah. They'll have to start again. So with the refastening, once we get all these cedar planks refastened and get some new floor timbers in, we'll put new garbards on, do a little bit of repair on the other side, and then it's really just finishing. This doesn't need a ton. So this should be done for the summer season for Plymouth Patuxent. And we're starting to work on it pretty hard. So some of this work is fine work and some of it isn't. And so we're able to use it with the apprentices as a teaching tool. They'll bore some holes and drive some trunnels, stuff like that. We'll do the fitting of the garboard, with them to look at, but we'll still, with them present, but we'll still do that nice fine fitting work. And then this is a pretty good teaching tool. It's also with that intermediate work, it's an opportunity for us to employ some of our graduate apprentices. So a couple of former students who are home for holiday break, things like that, looking for something to work for a couple of weeks at a time. This is the kind of project that you can put them on because the skill level is completely within their grasp, and the work here is ongoing, and so it's perfect. It's not like a dory or a skiff where you really need to pick up and carry it right through to the end. So yeah, we should watch this progress to getting in the water by hopefully by June, or we'll say June. Okay. All right, so one thing about being a boat shop is we make boats, and those boats need to find homes. And currently we have a lot of boats that are looking for homes. It's not like a doggy rescue or anything, but this here haven, which I said is brand new and could be done by the summer season this season, would be looking for a good home. We're hoping even to do a sail making class this winter with Harold Burnham to make a suit of sails for this. So if you're interested in a sail making class, keep your eyes peeled to the website because that may come up. Haven 12.5 here. Got a nice little 12-foot Mohonk skiff. This guy's about 90% done. All we need to do is put some seats in it and paint it. That also looking for a good home. We don't have these things listed on our website currently because, I mean, these are projects, well, this is listed, but these are projects that are in process. That one was one that we got mostly done with and had to stop at the end. And then there are a lot of these types of things. So these are boats that have been donated that maybe need a little bit of work. That one really doesn't need anything. That's a glued lapstrake plywood affair. That would be great with a sliding seat in it if anybody wants like an ocean shell kind of deal. But that's available. And then, like I said, this Beetle cat that we're working on in the other room, once that's completed, and that even could be by the summer season, that will be available for sale. And then we have several boats in the yard, some in perfect shape, some in mid shape, and they would need to, they're all looking for homes. And so what you see on the website isn't necessarily what we have. If you're looking for a small boat, get in touch with us and we might just have what you're looking for sitting here. So you're probably, if you're at least in the eastern half of the country, aware that the past week anyway here, we've had some considerable wind and considerable rain and flooding. And so we're fortunate, I mean, we're right on the river, and the worst flooding event ever here was in 1936, and the water came up almost, well, it stopped a few feet from the first floor. So this whole bottom level flooded. Many dories floated up and were damaged by floating up against the overhead and getting damaged that way. So this week, we've seen nothing like that since. This week is about the worst that I have seen, yesterday in particular. So earlier in the week, the water came up to just about here on the lawn. And then yesterday, you can sort of see, there's a rack line all the way up here from the water having come up that high. And that was just below the level of the deck. And the sailboat here, you can actually see the water line here where the water had come up yesterday. So that is pretty darn high for us, and another foot in water would be in the building above the floor. So that is about as bad as it gets here, fingers crossed, at least right now, but I think it's everybody has some kind of threat from climate change, and I think this is our existential threat from climate change right here. We used to have a bunch of floats and stuff under here, and those have all floated away between this last year and this year. So even last year we had a pretty good bit of water up this way. We rescued from the flood the other day, we rescued all this firewood. And then yesterday, in that water, we were actually able to float these logs onto the lawn. So the firewood that we burn, we usually harvest from the river. It comes floating down and we grab it, and on a tide like that, we can float it over the wall and cut it up, which is what all this is. And so, as hurtful or damaging as it may have been, it also provided us with some firewood. So anyway, let's hope this is an anomaly and not the norm.
Ready to go. Gus Lacasse, everybody on the fiddle. Give him a round of applause. Yes, indeed.
And Matthias Kameen on guitar and banjo and singing and everything else.
Ain't much after that.
And the dog's his too.
Yeah, no, it's a communist dog. He's everybody's dog. Isn't that right?